Now look at Mossy. Really? Oh, so that's how you're going to play it. You going to do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that. And it became personal with me.
What's really good, my people? Welcome into No Catch Up, Sports Talk via Chicago Bears recap week 9. The Bears have lost 3 straight. They've lost 4 of 6. And they are one of the worst offensive football teams I've ever seen. And we're going to get right into it. Big Nick the Quick, our guy, of course, the co-host of No Catch Up, Eli Caberon, Bears Insider, joins us weekly for the Bears recap. What's going on, fellas?
Not too much. 3 points.
Yeah, pretty much.
Look, the Bears, the final score was 24-17, but the real final score of the game was 24-3. I didn't load up any highlights because I couldn't find any. I don't have Michael Jordan behind me because I couldn't bring the GOAT for this type of pod. I couldn't even bring him around the Bears' essence. It was really, really ugly yesterday. Let's start with you, Eli. How did you feel? Look, I'll go through a couple of them just to kind of tee you up real quick. And going into the game, let me start by saying this. Going into the game, we know the offense is struggling. We've seen it multiple weeks in a row, but we just took the Saints to overtime. We showed at least flashes of making a couple plays. We're going into Tennessee. They have one of the worst defenses in the league and the absolute worst defense in the league on third down. They were giving up 67% first downs on third down. That's worse than the league. Bears yesterday, 2 for 15. For the 5th time in 6 starts under Nick Foles, the Bears have failed to complete they have failed to rush for 65 yards. That's a huge problem. And now we're at 8 in 41 games coached by Matt Nagy. 18 of them, the Bears have not scored 20 points. Eli, give me your thoughts during the game right now. How you feeling?
So I'll preface my rant by saying the Bears had a really tough week last week. Lots of players were hurt on the offensive line, lots of COVID-19 issues, everything going on in the country, the world. All that said, that was the worst offensive performance that they've had under Matt Nagy. And you could tell right from the very beginning that it was going to be a bad day. On that 4th and 1, they decide to go for it, and the offensive line gets no leverage, and Montgomery is thrown backwards. And from there, that was the game, in my opinion. The Bears had no chance of scoring when you can't convert that 1 yard. Those garbage time points in the end don't count, in my book. The Bears were dominated. They wasted another really good defensive effort, I thought, but the offense just keeps getting worse every week. There was just no rhythm in the first half. The only points they scored were when the Titans went to prevent. It was just awful all the way around.
And I'll talk about the 4th down play real quick. Well, the play before that, we got Allen Robinson. He runs a route semi short of the sticks, but has an opportunity to turn it up and get there. He doesn't get there. He comes up short. Now, it wasn't Eli. It wasn't a dive up the middle. It was like a trap.
Yeah.
It was like a fullback reverse out trap with like a pulling guard.
And Jermaine Ifedi blocked air.
Exactly. And well, we just don't.
I mean, at least it wasn't a toss to Cordell Patterson, but
right. But listen, we don't, like I just said, 5 of 6 starts for Nick Foles. We failed to rush for 65 yards. So we can't have any tricks. If we're gonna turn around and run a dive and try to make it happen. So yeah, man. Once we came out and got a couple decent plays of that opening pass to Jimmy Graham. And then for it to stall like that on a reverse, it's just a bad play call.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
It's like we talked about last week, knowing your personnel, what they do well, what they don't do well. They don't run block right up the middle very well. The guards are trash. Figure something else out. That's simple as that.
Exactly. Big Nick the Quick. before I get into a couple things you sent me during the game, give me your thoughts now. Bears have lost 3 straight. We knew we were on our way here, but now we're here. How you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, so we got to be honest at this point in time. We're past the point of breaking down this team on a week-to-week basis. There's no point in pulling out plays from yesterday and saying we should have done this, or why was this play call happening, or how can we improve in this spot? There is zero improvement to be made with this team that is going to happen this year, right? I think Eli brought up a good point when you talk about the injuries, and it's not going to be an excuse for this coaching staff or this GM at all. But, with the injuries and where we are now with the offensive line, they can't do anything. The Titans were living in the backfield yesterday. It's a run play. They're blowing it up. They're in Foles' ass. Whatever. Can't get anything done on offense. It's the same story every single week. We're in the middle of this 3-game losing streak. I don't see a situation in which we can win a ball game like this at all for the rest of the year, to be completely honest with you. I don't care who we play. If you play that kind of football on offense, you're not going to win any ball games. So I'm kind of over really talking about what happened yesterday with them, because it's just going to be the same thing every single week. It's the same thing we've been talking about. It's getting progressively worse. Since he's put in Nick Foles, this offense has gotten worse. And it gets worse every single week under this quarterback, under this coach, under this regime, however you want to look at it. Since that decision has been made, the offense has gotten worse. And it's compounded by the fact that you look around the league yesterday and there was offensive explosions everywhere. The Buffalo Bills are scoring 44 points. Raheem Morris and the Atlanta Falcons are scoring 34 points. The Dolphins are scoring 34 points. You had a shootout in Arizona with 2 young quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Even the Cowboys scored 19 points and they couldn't score a touchdown for a month. So, the situation is bleak. Offensively, this is one of the worst Bears offense I've ever seen, because at least in some of the ones that we used to, see that couldn't score, at least they could run the fucking football. We can't even do that. This team is straight 3 and out, leads the league in penalties. I don't even know where to start. It's all bad. There's no real point in sitting here and picking out plays from yesterday, because it's honestly not going to make a difference. There's nothing that they can do to fix this season, which is crazy when you're talking about a ball club that's still 5-4. But it's about to get worse.
You said it's hopeless.
It's hopeless. I don't see any situation in which they turn this around, man, because the offense is that bad, and now you don't even have a line to block for them. So now anything you want to try to do, now Nagy can't actually do anything, because you have an offensive line that is incapable. Rashaad, I forget whatever his first name is, Coward, should not be in the National Football League. I said it last week about this guy Spriggs. I'm saying it this week about this guy Coward. This guy should not be in the National Football League. He has 0 place in the National Football League. You cannot convince me that you cannot find a better guard on this planet anywhere than that guy. You can't tell me that. I'm not convinced that there's not a better guard somewhere roaming the streets of the earth that can play better than Rashaad Coward. You can't. Last week, he misses on the twist. This week, he just gets his ass handed to him. And this is a Titans defense that's trash. We couldn't score against a trash defense. We couldn't stop a trash defense. I'm going to go ahead and say that Ryan Tannehill was one of the 5 worst players on the field yesterday. He wasn't good. He was awful. He was terrible. Terrible.
He made one play.
You should never. At one point, he was 5 for 16. You should never get beat by a quarterback like that. They were containing Derrick Henry, but Sean, I told you, once it hits the 4th quarter, yeah, he's going to break off a 26-yard run. But you were containing him. The defense came to play. Now, there were some tackling errors by the safeties that we talked about. Buster Screen is atrocious. We know this. But still, that was an okay effort by the defense. That was a game you should have won. And it was also a game that you should have lost 41-3. Had you played a team that could score, because I will say it again, Ryan Tannehill was a top 5 worst player on the field yesterday, and you still allowed him to get the W.
Yeah, absolutely. Tannehill made one play.
One play. One entire game.
He made one play the entire game. And it's funny because we talked about this too. After he made that one play, the game was wrapped, and it was a 10-point game. It was a 10-point game, and it was like, this is over with. Like, how are we going to do anything here?
Took us 55 minutes to score a touchdown, guys. 55 minutes to score. We didn't score any points until the end of the 3rd quarter. and we should have got a touchdown, but we settled for a field goal.
What was that about, by the way? Just to get some points on the board?
I guess.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Santos is the most reliable guy on the team at this point.
Yeah, Santos
Him and O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pat is good.
Pay Pat, pay Santos, and pay A-Rob, man.
And pay Mingo.
Seriously, put Mingo back in the backfield. I mean, that was atrocious. I cannot stress that team was not good yesterday. The Titans were not good yesterday. They wanted to lose that ball game.
Can we talk again about the coaching, whatever the hell that was, that they get a fake punt and then they have to burn a timeout because they're not prepared to convert the fourth down fake? Like, what is going? Like, they did that against the Panthers a couple weeks ago. Like the delay of game following the timeout, following like the big play. Like, you clearly have no faith in your team when you're faking a punt, but then you don't even have faith that the fake punt's going to work because you don't have a play ready for when he gets it. So like, Nagy just shoots himself in the foot time and time again with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, did they get back-to-back false starts on the fourth down too?
It was 4th and 1. It was 4th and 1. We got back-to-back.
Was it one of them Rashaad Coward?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, should not be allowed at Hallis Hall.
Listen.
Do not allow him in Lake Forest. Don't let him get off the exit.
Social distancing.
Cut him off. Yeah, we're good. Thank you. Here's the rest of your money. Thank you. We'll find another defensive lineman to turn into a guard.
If you go 3, I don't think I've ever seen a team go 3 and out, run a fake punt, convert it, and then go 3 and out again. Like that's almost.
They still didn't even get to midfield. Like
that. Usually you could get some momentum rolling to get the guys hyped up. At least I've never seen a 3 and out fake punt conversion, 3 and out, and then like you said, Eli, not get back to midfield. That is like ineptitude to the top, like the elite aptitude.
You ever seen the team get a ball back at the 50 with a minute left before half and with no timeouts and proceed to throw the ball up the middle 3 times?
Mm.
Yeah.
You ever seen that? Because you want the one thing you want to do is stop the clock. So luckily you didn't convert any of these, but you punted anyways. But you literally threw the ball up the middle 3 times.
The defense, that's actually a great point. And I was gonna, and there was so much bad yesterday. I wasn't even gonna pass over that. The defense literally before half hands us 3 points. Stuff up the middle. They stuffed Tennessee all over the place on the 1 yard line. Then whoever the Tennessee punter hits a bomb.
Yeah, that guy was.
Yeah, that dude was.
Hits a bomb. We make a good play. Who's our new? I blank on his name.
Harris.
Harris makes a great play on the punt return. Ball bounces up in the air. He one hand brings it down, and instead of us getting the ball on the 35, where we're absolutely hopeless, he scoops, picks up 15, gets out of bounds. We're at midfield essentially. All we need is 15 yards, man. The D did everything they needed to do on their end. We get the guy has a 75-yard punt that we scoop up and get back to midfield. And like Nick said, we dump it over the middle, I think 3 times and have and just have nowhere to go with it, no options. And then
with
we
no
just
timeouts.
With no timeouts, it's just like, what is happening?
And 2 penalties by the offensive line right there too.
Yeah. So look, man, I think like Nick said, it's a good point not to. If we're gonna break it down week by week and play by play, I think it's gonna be a lot of the same stuff. But Eli, I'll start with you.
Version of it every week.
Yeah, this is extra alarming because of how bad Tennessee is on defense. Look, we weren't playing the Ravens or we weren't playing the Steelers. Like these dudes we made these dudes look like they were the Steelers. If it's 3rd and 5. It's a punt. Like that's how crazy our defense or our offense is right now.
It's 3rd and 2. It's a punt. What do you mean? We can't pick up any yardage. We can't pick up 4th and 1s. We can't. There's no. It's bleak.
Yeah.
I think you said it. We're the worst offense in the league. We'll see what the Jets put up tonight. I guarantee you the Jets have a better offensive performance than the Bears tonight.
I'm going to tell you this right now. This is the worst offensive team in the league. Bottom of the barrel, last. And the Jets included. Turn on the Jets tonight, and they'll be bad. They won't look as bad as we did yesterday and have looked the last couple weeks. And if you really want to know, they've progressively got a little bit better each and each week. They held Buffalo to under 20 points a couple weeks back. Watch the Jets tonight. They'll look better than we did on offense. Like you said, Nick, it's a big picture thing. Eli, does the blame okay? Because look, and I'll play a little devil's advocate, but I'm also keeping it 100. We don't have an offensive line. We have tons of injuries there, right? It's hard to do anything on offense when you don't have an offensive line. Matt Nagy doesn't have a ton of players at his disposal. That doesn't change. And listen, I want to be clear here. He doesn't have a lot of weapons, and his O-line is destroyed. That doesn't change the decision-making, how bad it's been, and how undisciplined the team is on offense. Like all that stuff lands on Matt Nagy, right?
I think what
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when we say that, let's not sit here and act like the Bears are coming out here with just the worst offensive talent in the league. Like I told you this yesterday, I feel like over the last 2 years, especially the year that we went to the playoffs, there was good offensive talent. They signed Taylor Gabriel. They signed Allen Robinson, right? They've brought in some guys offensive. We have had teams where you look at the offensive roster and you're like, yo, this is absolutely brutal. So let's not sit here and act like we have had an offense that doesn't have a number one receiver, right? Like let's not sit around and act like this is a team completely void of talent, and Ryan Pace was just like, here, go out here with a bunch of nobodies and try to make it happen. There are less talented offensive rosters in the league who are scoring points. So we have to give Nagy.
Who are they though? Who are you talking about?
I don't know. I would have to go through the rosters in the NFL, but do you think the Bears have the worst offensive roster in the
terms
NFL?
Of skill position talent, no. Like the Bears have some dudes that can ball, but they have no quarterback and they have no offensive line.
The Denver Broncos. Name me someone who catches pass on the Denver Broncos. They put up 27 points yesterday.
Jerry Jeudy. That's one.
Okay, great.
That's one. He's he's an animal.
Okay, great. I mean, whatever.
Okay, listen. I understand what you're saying, and
the Giants put up 23 yesterday and won a ball game.
Yeah, no, and that's fair because they have nobody on O. So
the Buffalo Bills put up 44 points yesterday.
Buffalo Bills, one of the best teams in the league.
They put up 44 points yesterday. The Dolphins were actively trading. The Dolphins put up 34 points yesterday.
No,
I get these teams have quarterbacks, but let's not act like you look at that. We have had years where you look at the roster and you say, wow, there's absolutely nobody who is capable of making a play. We have guys that if you can get them the ball, if you can do the right things for them, they can make plays. Allen Robinson is a top 15 receiver. That's not always been the case in Chicago. So I get where you're going in the offensive line for sure, but he started off with a healthy offensive line. It might not have been great, but it's not like before these injuries happened, the offense was humming on the line. It's not like it looked great. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're like, there isn't some big break between the injuries and the non-injuries. It's been shit all year, and it's gotten worse since he put in fucking Foles. Let's keep it real.
Yeah, no, that's what
I'm not making no excuses for this man. Neither of them. Not Pace either, but neither of them.
I agree, and that's where I was getting at. He's not loaded with talent, but what he's producing with what he has is not up to snuff. We'll put it like that. Yeah. So Eli, what if you had to put, where does the blame land? Is it 50-50 Pace Nagy? Is it more Pace than Nagy? What is it?
I mean, I don't see how you can really separate the two. I think a lot of it, I would put the onus on Pace for building this roster, for ignoring basically the offensive line last year and assuming that a changing position coach would fix how Bobby Massey and Charles Leno protect at tackle. And like we've talked about the guards and interior linemen, they had no depth behind Daniels and Whitehair. Like that's inexcusable. Not having a backup running back. I know Tariq Cohen got hurt, but he wasn't even like your prototypical running back. To have the kickoff return specialist be the number 2 running back made no sense. To give all the money to Jimmy Graham, followed by using a second-round pick on Cole Kmet for an offense that seemingly doesn't want to use the tight ends in the red zone. Like, what was that? There's just no collaboration between the GM and the coach. And so I put the onus on the GM for that. But Nagy, to what Nick said, there are dudes on this team. Like, there are receivers, there are running backs. Montgomery was a second-round pick. Miller was a third-round pick. Like, they have players. And the offense still looks like shit every week. And that's on Nagy for sure.
Yeah, I think it's the discipline thing too. The penalties and then the timely spots that these penalties are happening. It's mind-boggling.
And the third quarter thing. The third quarter thing is glaring on Nagy. You cannot consistently. You've scored 7 points in the third quarter in 9 football games.
And the first quarter is pretty bad too. Like right when they come out of the locker room and they're ass. Like they
get garbage fourth quarter points in a lot of games. Sometimes and in the beginning of the season, some of those games mattered and those fourth quarter points mattered. But he should not get credit for 17 points scored this week. No. This was a 3-point performance. So So like I get what you're saying as far as like there not being a lot of offensive talent, but it's not a 3-point offense. We're not looking at a 3-point offense here. There is more than 3 points in that offense against a very bad Tennessee Titans defense. There just is.
And the reason Nagy was so popular at the beginning was his creativity, his ability to use different guys, the whole Santa's sleigh play on the goal line. Like he was creative. Now we have none of that. Like, and I get that you don't run trick plays when you can't even run like a basic dive play, but they got to get these players involved and utilize their skill set. I mean, we saw at the end of the game, I know that the Titans were in prevent, but Ryan Nall did some things. Where was he in the first 3 quarters if he could make plays like that? Like, it just makes no sense why certain guys don't get opportunities or certain guys are not put in position to succeed when the offense needs any sort of spark. It just doesn't add up to me.
Well, and also, why are you in the first few plays of the games, the little short pass, there's nothing attractive about that. It's borderline effective, but it was working. Yeah. So just stick with it. Why do you going away from it? If that's what you want to do, if you want to do those quick short passes and just try your luck at that because you literally cannot run the football, fine, just go for it.
And it would set up the deep shot, which is in theory Foles' strength, which is his deep passing, which we haven't really seen his being his strength, but that's what they're supposed to be doing. But they just go away from that. There's no cohesion from the first quarter to the second quarter to the third quarter to the fourth quarter.
Oh, there's no cohesion because there's no flow and we never get anything going. It's impossible to have cohesion if you're going 3 and out literally all day long. So, and real quick, Nick, because I'm gonna pass it to you in a second. Eli, you made a good point about how we have Tariq goes down, we have no backup running back, and I guess our plan was to just play Cordell Patterson at running back. Well, we did have Mike Davis as a backup running back, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. I guess we saw him in practice and we didn't like him, and he went to Carolina and he held it down for Christian McCaffrey, who was out. But that was a mistake. There's just a lot of.
They signed Lamar Miller and he can't get off the practice squad. So either something's wrong with Lamar Miller, or they don't think that we need a backup running back, which is telling because Montgomery hasn't really done much these last 2 months.
Or they know it doesn't matter who you could put fucking Walter Payton mixed with Gale Sayers, the touch of Barry Sanders back there. They're not going to be able to get away from that offensive line. It might not matter, fellas. Like it doesn't matter. That's why you need to go ahead and the Bears. Are we going to bye this week?
No, Vikings on Monday night.
When do we fucking get a bye? This is incredible too. They give us 11 straight weeks of Bears football. This is just painful. Give us a bye week. Bring back Mitch Trubisky. I never thought I'd say it, but this is where I'm at right at this point. Watching that game yesterday, fully believe the offense is way worse with Nick Foles. The inability to escape is glaring because there's plenty of opportunities for it. And as much as we don't like Mitch, I mean, in the missing of the big plays and everything like that, man, at least there were times when he could move the football. I cannot believe I'm saying that, but we desperately need to bring Mitch Trubisky back into the ballgame. Wow.
He might be able to make more things happen. I mean,
there's no point in riding it out with Foles. What are you trying to see? I mean, you might as well see whatever's left in Mitch.
I mean, at least Mitch would hopefully cover up some of the offensive line problems because of his mobility. Like, at least he's not just going to stand back there.
Yeah. Foles just stands back there and waits for it. You just watch it happen with Foles. It's like you watch the guys get back there. You're like, it's not going to end well.
No, it is true. It's like happening in slow motion too.
No, but like where Sean, where are you? Like, are you with bringing Mitch back, or like if you were making that decision, you're Nagy this week, put away your pride. If you're just making a strictly football decision, are you bringing Mitch Trubisky back?
To be honest, until you just said that, I hadn't thought about it since the game ended and last night when I was getting ready, and then this morning I hadn't thought about Trubisky back because I think for me it doesn't fucking matter. Like, they're both bad. The offense is bad. Nagy, look, how about this? We've seen what Nagy does with Trubisky. It's really bad. We see what Nagy does with Foles. It's really, really bad. So, like,
I'd rather have really bad than really, really bad.
Yeah, you'd rather have really bad than really, really bad. But Yeah, I don't know, man. We got a lot of things to figure out. If they put Trubisky back in the game, would I be upset? No. How could I be? Right?
No,
It's like
it's bring it on.
Yeah, let's go.
We might be able to get a first down. We're not even talking about points. Let's get a first down.
Yeah, that's the bar is very, very low right now. So I wouldn't be mad at that whatsoever. Big Nick. So our no catch up fam, Big Nick sent me a text yesterday, and he goes, "Matt Nagy is Adam Gase, but with a little personality." Is that you? I need you to explain that, big quick.
Well, it's the same exact thing, man. A lot of offensive hype, a lot of hoopla, offensive-minded head coach that doesn't just have a bad offense. You have an offense. You saw that. I forget what the stats were, but they show those little boxes in the offensive ranks, and one was 29, 30, 31, right? Same thing a few weeks ago when we broke down Adam Gase's offensive ranks. Same exact things, right? Deep 20s or low 30s. That's it. There's nothing higher than that. And it's the same exact thing with Matt Nagy. So I think Nagy's not an asshole, right? He comes out and he's friendly to the media in the sense that he gives you answers and everything like that. You watch a Gase press conference, he's completely disinterested in any human interaction whatsoever and truly doesn't give a shit.
He's like that with his players too.
Yeah. He just has no
talk to his players.
Inability to connect with anybody. So that's not the case with Nagy, right? I do believe that Nagy's a rah-rah guy. I do believe there's probably a segment of the locker room who does like him. There's probably a lot of guys who think he's corny as fuck. I think, was it Laura? I can't ever get her name right. Is it Laura Oakman? She said yesterday that Nagy said something about the defense needs to play to make their moms proud, which was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire life on a broadcast. But we're getting used to that. They should just no longer talk to insiders because every week we get something crazy from it. Whether it's Jose Hicks drank 90 beers.
Stop.
They don't even ask them about football anymore.
We've had multiple insiders asked about that. Tony Miller was voted most likely to be late for practice. Then we got Akeem Hicks on wing night, drank 90 beers, and then confirmed it and said, "Yeah, I definitely did that." And
now Nagy says, "Play hard for your mom."
Play hard for your mom.
I think there's probably he motivates his team, and I'm sure he communicates with his team and probably tries to have relationships inside the building, unlike Adam Gase. But you pull all that away when it comes to the football. What's the difference? I mean, honestly, at this point in the year, what is the difference other than the fact that we've won 5 ball games, which is miraculous, but that's on the strength of our defense. So he's Adam Gase with personality. No results.
Let me ask you this, Eli. One of our homies, shout out Big Eder. Oh, he just had a girl, dad, daughter. Shout out to Ben Eder. Just had a daughter over the weekend. But he said this. Me and Nick, so we were right at the turning point when we had flipped from Trubisky to Foles, and he was like, "Man, just leave Trubisky in because even if Foles comes in and is better, it just slots us in the middle of the pack and we're dead, right? Like we're 7-9 and we're picking 15th or 13th or whatever it is, and we're dead. We can't get anybody that we really, really need." So what's the play, I guess, is my question for you, Eli. Like, this is where we're at, right? We're probably going to win 7 games, maybe 7 games. We already have 5. We might win 10 more games or 2 more games. Excuse me. Yeah, we may win.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. So, what do we do? Do we just because our guy's Eder's argument was we need to rebuild this whole thing from the ground up. We need to go get a guy like Trevor Lawrence type, or you know what I mean, to Justin Fields type, to go get a top 3 quarterback coming out of college. And my argument was the reason we need to go to Foles is because it's not ideal that these are our quarterbacks, but we need to try to capitalize on what this defense has left. It kind of seems like the D window is going to close before we figure out the quarterback situation. And I saw some chatter on Twitter. This one guy had a long ass thread about how we need to do a complete rebuild. We need to get rid of Fuller. We need to get rid of all our pieces everywhere, bottom of the barrel it, and then build it back up. Where do we go from here, Nick? And then I'll come to you, Eli.
Yeah, I would 100% look to like move a Khalil Mack in the offseason for sure. anybody who's getting close to that to that age and a little bit older, I'd be hesitant on pulling a deal on Fuller because correct me if I'm wrong, they got Fuller on a good contract.
Yeah.
For a top flight corner, right? And he's still young, and I think that if you're looking at a rebuild in the NFL, you can do it in 2 years. I mean, so if that's the case, you land on a quarterback, you still want to have Kyle Fuller in place. I think with a guy like Mac, he's just going to keep getting older, and he probably does have some value for another team. So I think you look to move on from him. Maybe Akeem Hicks look to move on from him. You have some pieces that other teams might want. So if you can get some of that draft capital back that you've traded away, go for it. But I'd be hesitant on like a Fuller, on an Eddie Jackson. I wouldn't completely strip down the defense, but any older player who realistically is going to be 2 years older by the time you hope to be competitive, definitely. Right. But you can't bring this same team in offensively. You can't. You need to have a major change on the offensive side of the ball, whether it be quarterback, whether it be coach. Like, I think if they do win 7 games, it's going to be hard for Nagy to survive that, just because of the implosion. You know what I mean? Going 2-8 down the stretch or whatever. So I think at that point in time, you're looking at a change. But yeah, I 100% agree that you should probably look to start moving off some of these pieces if they have value. Not the young ones, but definitely some of your veterans.
I mean, at the time that they made the quarterback change, the reason they did that because they thought they were playoff bound. Like they signed Quinn to big money. They signed Jimmy Graham to big money. Those are veteran players that you're not signing those guys for a rebuilding project. You signing those guys because you think you have a chance at the playoffs. And when you're 3-1 and you go to the veteran quarterback who's a former Super Bowl MVP, they clearly thought, okay, this is what's going to put the offense over the top. Clearly the opposite has happened, and the offense has somehow gotten worse under Foles. Moving forward to Nick's point, though, they just got finished paying off the Mac trade. The Raiders cashed in the last of those picks last year. So now the Bears finally have their own picks plus Khalil Mack. That would be hard to then turn around and trade him. Like, you're just finally reaching the point where you can build around him.
Yeah, just paid the car off, and now you're about to give it up, right?
They need to. I definitely agree that they can't
afford the gasoline.
They can't afford to come back next year. They can't afford to come back next year with the same offense, hoping to figure out and hoping to win games 17-14. Because that's just not how the NFL's played anymore. Like, the Bears are still hoping to win the way that they did in 1985, and that's just that era has clearly come and gone. They need to be in modern football. They need to find a quarterback that can do that, and none of those guys are on the roster right now. So they need to do an offensive overhaul. I just would be reluctant to deal off guys like Mac, who are elite level players, and you're going to get 80 cents on the dollar or something for something like that.
Yeah. Nick, what do you think?
No, I hear where you're coming from. The only reason I pointed to like Mac and Hicks is just their age. Definitely. Like, if you feel like you can turn this around in 1 to 2 years, like you can do a Miami Dolphins thing and just have a great offseason and start hitting from there, then yeah, you do. But I don't want to look back and we're still searching for a quarterback 2 or 3 years from now and Khalil Mack's just on the roster dying. Right. You know what I mean? And we could have got something for him. So I don't want to get rid of Khalil Mack. He's the best player we've had on the Bears in years. Right. But it's almost like what do you but
it's a tough decision. Yeah, it's what do you do?
What do you do? Like, at this point, what do you do? Like, you cannot score points. You can't produce points. You can't figure out a way to put 6 on the scoreboard. And until you can do that, you're not going to be able to win any ball games. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. And we're seeing that right now. I mean, I think we're seeing this defense still play well, and they're being taxed every single week. Like, imagine if you gave them some easy games, what this defense would look like. Imagine if you gave them a fucking break every once in a while. So, yeah, I get it. And I'm not criticizing them for the decision to go to Foles, because we all sat here and said, like, it's a good deal. Like, we think this is a playoff team, and Mitch just doesn't have it. And this guy Foles has obviously delivered in big spots before in his career, at least for one season. But it didn't work. It's not working. Scrap that plan and see what you can get for guys. At least listen. Yeah, I wouldn't shut the door on listening to offers. Listen, see what you can get.
I think this Robert Quinn deal is not getting anywhere near the flack that it.
Yeah, that was
done nothing.
Oh my God!
They already had an A- defense, and then their thought was like, oh, if we make it an A+ defense, that'll be the difference. But that money definitely could have been used elsewhere.
The younger guy is good. The guy who got the sack yesterday, Mario Edwards or whatever.
Yeah. And the dam is going to break on the defense. Either Dalvin Cook next week or Aaron Rodgers in a couple weeks. Like, they're going to give up 31 points in one of these games, and it's it's just bound to happen, and the offense is going to have no way to keep up with that. Like the
31-3.
Bears are in these games because the defense, and eventually the defense is going to have a bad day, and it's going to look
or they're just going to quit.
Yeah, like fuck this.
Or they're just going to quit. Like, yo, man, this is crazy. They literally go into the game every single week knowing they cannot give up more than 17 points. And I'll say this, Buster Screen can't cover anybody. We've said that.
Nobody.
But, like, the throw that Tannehill made and the catch that A.J. Brown made, like, that was the only play they gave up. And it was an amazing play. It was an amazing throw from Tannehill and an amazing catch from A.J. Brown. Like, that was
good coverage. It was good coverage.
It was good coverage. And it was an easy target because, like, oh, of course you scored on Buster. But, like, man, and A.J. Brown is a beast. Like, Nick, you were talking about the safety tackling. Like, I gave him a little more credit because, like, he's just an animal out there. Like, arm tackles, no. You need to hit him with a couple people, and both people
that was my
to
point.
wrap up.
Yeah, that was my point. I mean, the Eddie Jackson one was egregious, but
Yeah.
it's like, I don't have the heat for the D like that, man. You know where I'm coming from with all this. I had to point out something. I didn't like the arm. I hate when DBs tackle like that. Like, it is like a number one pet peeve. That's why I love Kyle Fuller. Like, be like Kyle Fuller.
Yeah, Kyle Fuller.
Nobody's getting past Kyle Fuller.
That's the Deion Sanders business decision. He's like,
Deion's different though because the ball wasn't going to the receiver, so it didn't matter.
Deion didn't have to tackle because
nobody.
The ball wasn't over there ever.
The ball wasn't coming. But yeah, so man, it's the situation. Well, here's the thing that I was also thinking about, and kind of relates to this question, dude. The situation for the Bears is super bleak because you don't have coach or quarterback. Right, you have so many question marks on this team for what you want to do going forward. There's no like, hey, if the Bears just do this and we need to do that. There are so many different things. There's so many questions with this team. There's so many questions with this roster. There's so many questions with the organization and which direction you're going to go over these next couple years. So I think that's the hopeless part. Like I couldn't sit. Like yesterday, my girl asked me, she's like, what would you do if you were the Bears? I'm like, I have no fucking idea. Get a quarterback, but that you can't just go do that. You know what I mean? Like
you got to get rid of Pace's got to go, Nagy's got to go, and then you go from there.
Well, you hear it on draft night all the time when they talk about like, oh, a mistake like that in the top of the draft can set your franchise back 10 years. We're seeing that. Like, look at the first round picks. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. Kevin White didn't pan out, and then Leonard Floyd didn't pan out, so you had to pay Robert Quinn to replace Leonard Floyd. And then, obviously, in 17, Trubisky's the big one. That didn't pan out. So now you're here in 2020, and you have no young talent to fill in the gaps. You have no young, affordable players that you can build around. And so, like you said, we're in this hopeless position where we have no young players, we have no coach, we have no GM that can build a team. And, yeah, it's a hopeless spot to be in. 5 wins is nice, but they're not going to get many more of those with this team.
Sure, 5 wins is going to become a hindrance if we win any more ball games because we're going to lose draft position. Yeah. We're going to miss out on a quarterback.
Would you
know
be?
I mean?
Yeah,
Huh?
No, I agree. It's almost like the wins that we lucked up and got early in the year. We'd be in better spot if we didn't get those wins and just were 1-8.
Yeah, we're not going to be worse than the Cowboys. We're not going to be worse than the Jets. You know, I mean, those guys are going to get a quarterback. Cowboys might not get a quarterback. You never know with Jerry, though.
So, yeah, we got a lot of question marks moving forward. And I'm really pissed off that we're on Monday night coming up.
Terrible.
Because it just amplifies everything times 10.
And Lou Riddick's like, I can't do this anymore. Lou Riddick loves the Bears, and he's like, I can't do another game of this.
And who knows what Brian Griese's going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Lou Riddick loves the Bears. He watches the Bears every single week.
Yeah.
Him and Nagy are boys.
Yeah, he's been trying to plug us for a while.
It's hurting his heart.
Maybe he can be the next GM.
Yeah, for real. I'd give Lewis a shot 100%.
If I'm Lewis, I'm going to go ahead and ride this Monday night thing out, man. Fuck the GM situation.
Yeah, it looks like such an attractive job, though. You know?
But he's been in front offices. He was the director of player personnel for some team in the NFL. He's been in front offices.
It was Philly, wasn't it? I thought it was Philly.
Yeah. Philly. That's where I think he worked with Nagy.
Yes.
Ride that Monday night thing out, man. He can do that forever.
Yeah, you really can. If you're
forever.
like Gruden could have done that till he wanted to.
They literally had to give Gruden $100 million. Like, fine. Had to offer him so much money he couldn't turn it down.
But then Jason Witten, they were like, we're good.
Yeah.
No,
Bill Cowher is the perfect example. He's not thought about coaching since he went to the broadcast studios. Like, well, I work 1 day a week, a couple $1 million a year. I don't. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
This is easy. I got my ring. I'm good.
No pressure is right. I will say this. I was puffing my chest out probably 10 days ago about how the Bears were going to get the Vikings at home on Monday night. We were going to maul the Vikings on D like we always do for the most part, especially in Chicago. And we were going to get a big win at home. Now, Dalvin Cook is going ballistic every week. He's unstoppable. And we have those guys coming in. They've won now 2 straight. They beat up on 2 divisional opponents.
Nagy's never lost to the Vikings, though. He always seems to play well against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, this team isn't capable of playing well on offense.
But Kirk Cousins is capable of handing over some gifts.
And I'm not even excited about the gift of Kirk Cousins this week. That's how bleak the Bears situation is. Any other week, I'd be like, yes, Kirk Cousins. That's exactly what we need right now.
Kirk Cousins on primetime.
I'd take Kirk Cousins in a heartbeat.
I think, yeah, man, it is a really tough situation because we're just hanging out in the middle.
It's no man's land, yeah.
It's
like where the Bulls were the last few years.
It's the Bulls at 40 wins. It's the exact opposite, or the exact same thing, but just a different. It's a different sport.
No, I think it's the Cubs. The Bears or the Cubs, if you really look at it, man, like 100 years of searching for a fucking quarterback is the same thing as 108 years of searching for a World Series.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, they're both really hard to get.
I mean, we've been searching for a quarterback our entire existence. I talked about it last week.
But look, I'll even say this, like last week, the Bengals beat the Titans. The Bengals have another team with a really, really bad offensive line. Joe Burrow sat back there and was throwing it all over the place, and they got their second win of the year, I believe. We couldn't do
talent than the Bears on offense.
Yeah, that's actually maybe that's a good point right there. Like
doing things.
It's a good comparison. It's like they just played that same team last week, and he did all right. They won the game.
400 yards.
Yeah, and we couldn't do literally anything. And I keep saying it's so hard to find a quarterback. There's about 15 or 16 or 17 like good quarterbacks in the league. Like you could always discuss elite versus middle of the pack, whatever. But who are the really, really teams with just like incapable of winning quarterback play? It's us. It's the Jets. Like the Chargers and Bengals are losing games, but like if you talk to their fan base, I'm sure they're elated.
They're optimistic.
Fine. They're
optimistic,
fine.
Right?
You're fine. If you're a Chargers fan, you're fine.
It's like, man, there's a lot of dudes to go get, man. We should go get the coach. We should go get Riley from Oklahoma.
But like I would be fine like taking like a retread that didn't like Dwayne Haskins didn't work out in Washington. Give him a try here. Like Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield.
Nick's not into that type of shit.
The Dwayne Haskins situation is very like to me like Eli like for me I love the black quarterback, man. Like black quarterback is already far ahead in my book, but I want no part of Dwayne Haskins. The way that Rivera didn't just bench him; he fucking benched him and put him third string,
like, shunned him.
Yeah, I think that there's probably some shit going on. Like, yeah, I think that Haskins.
But okay, like in general,
I see what you mean.
The top 10 didn't make it. Top 10 talent that just didn't work out because some team's gonna get Mitch, and they're gonna be like, oh, that's how Mitch Trubisky should have been used, and like maybe the Bears can be that landing spot for somebody else
instead of jersey number 81 and throw balls to him.
Whatever.
No, I think I get what you're saying. I tweeted the other day about listen, I know you guys in Philly talk a lot of shit about Wentz, and I see what he's doing. He's trying to make every play on every down, and you just can't do that. He's got to pull it back. But I would take Wentz in Chicago, no question about it.
They're not giving up Carson
Wentz. But that's what I think that's kind of like what Eli's saying.
Jalen
right?
Hurts, then.
No, I don't want Jalen Hurts. He can't. Stop it. I mean, we haven't seen it, but I lean that Jalen Hurts is not going to be a good NFL. He couldn't really throw it in the SEC. He's not going to come to the NFL and throw it. Like Tua in the SEC was throwing it all over the place. Like all these guys, Burrow was throwing it like I've never seen before. So like, yeah, he's going to be able to come into the league and make a few things happen. I don't know, man. We need to. The point I made the other week is you need an offensive coach that can make it work in the NFL, because you can't make the offensive guy the coordinator, because then he leaves you to become a head coach somewhere else. You need a guy running an offense in a system for a very long period of time. You could bring people in, you could build the offense how you want to, and then that's how it can be successful. We got a lot of work to do. What's worse, being a Bears fan right now or a Bulls fan? I guess last year,
fan.
Before we got the new regime, like the
at least the Bulls cleaned house.
Yeah, the Bulls cleaned house, and
yeah,
it's optimistic. There's hope on the Bulls side.
There was a path to victory for the Bears. For the Bulls, I'm sorry. You could look at the Bulls and be like, this is what needs to happen. And it started with firing your fucking coach with a bonehead. But like I'm saying, with the Bears, there's so many different things. There's so many different things when you look at like what it will actually take to turn this around. And I'm not saying it can't be done. It can obviously be done. And it starts with some luck in the draft and just getting a quarterback. But there's just so many different questions, because I think as a franchise, you just said it, we're in the middle. And it's hard when you're in the middle to say, all right, we're going to go to the bottom, because you still feel like you're closer to the top than you are the bottom. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's going to be a problem for the Bears. And Ryan Pace isn't going to willingly strip everything down. So I mean, yeah, obviously you got to move on from him, but
he's got to go. I think we've seen what we need to see. I think it's just time. It's time to switch it up. I don't know. I guess we'll just ride out the rest of the season and. Yo, before we get out of here, Nick called me yesterday and he goes, "What are we doing here? Like, why are we even watching this? Like, what's the point here? What are we doing?
Why did they give us Dick Stockton? That's what I want to know.
Because they had to give us somebody, and they're like, look, he's already half dead, and this game will last.
Did you guys hear when he was like, he asked Greg Jennings if he had memories of watching Earl Campbell grow up, and Greg Jennings was like, dude, I was born in 1983. Like, I have. What are you talking about?
Or when he asked him about, he's like, so Greg, share me your thoughts on inconsistent quarterback play. And it's like, you mean Greg Jennings, who played his entire career with Brett Favre and fucking Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, he doesn't
like,
know.
He doesn't know. He's like, hey, I don't know. And Greg Jennings is like, you know, when you used to struggle on offense, it's like, well, who?
Yeah.
Well, that first drive when Allen Robinson doesn't reach out and they never show a replay, and Dick Stockton's like, they moved the chains, and it's like clearly they didn't move the chains. It's like, what are you watching, man? Like, there has to be some young journalism student at like DePaul or something that can call games better than Dick Stockton. There has to be.
Dick should just go retire and hang out, man.
Yeah, he's getting that money, man. He's getting that bread. Dick's like, yeah, I'll be back if you'll have me.
All right, man. That's the Chicago Bears Week 9 recap. For Big Nick the Quick, Eli Cabron, I am your host, Sean Little. Make sure you subscribe everywhere. Bears at home Monday night against the Vikings. Should be interesting. Make sure you subscribe. Tell the homies, lock in. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. We out of here.